part of our role in the process early on when districts consider calling a bond election is to help develop plans and just overall the financial impact that a bond election could have on that community. And then once, with a bond election, if it passes, we become very involved at the time the bonds are sold. That's a large part of our job. We manage the process. And our ultimate goal is to get the district into the bond market and just get the lowest cost of capital that we can so they can complete their project. And based on current interest rates, if the May bond would have passed in today's market with a 30-year repayment is what we were estimating at the time, the district would have paid about 4%, slightly under 4%. So 3.8, 3.9, right around 4% would be in today's market. And of course that changes daily, but based on our projections today, that would have been the rate on the bond had it passed in May. In the state of Texas, school districts have a tax rate. That tax rate is made up of two components. The largest component is what we call the maintenance and operations tax, or the M&O tax. And with the M&O tax, currently Cristoval's at $1.17. The other component of the tax rate is called the interest and sinking fund, or INS portion of the tax rate. And that's the tax rate we're talking about when we look at bonds. The M&O or maintenance tax, that's set for teacher salaries, the electric bill, just keeping the daily operations of the district going. With the bond issue, that's strictly dedicated to be paid for from that INS tax rate. And the only way a school district can set an INS tax rate is to go to voters for approval. So any figures that we provide to the district, those are strictly to the INS tax rate. And currently, the district is at 0.0474 cents. So 4.74 cents is the district's current tax rate for its current debt. If the district calls for the bond election, depending on the amount and the amortization, we become involved. We help develop projections on what that tax rate will look like based on the factors at the time. The biggest input is the interest rate and then also the property values. If property values were to increase over time, the district can look at lowering that tax rate or vice versa. And so there's a few variables that go into projecting the tax rate, and it all stems from the size of the bond issue. Anytime we make projections early on in the process, there's a timing factor involved. With a November bond election, keep in mind that those bonds would not actually be sold until probably the first part of 2019. It takes time to canvass the election, get everything in place to where we go sell the bonds. And so, as I mentioned before, one of the biggest variables in these projections is the interest rate. That interest rate on a November bond election would not actually be set until sometime in February. So that's what we like to build into our projections. There's some cushion to allow for movement between now and then, but I think overall we're looking at historically low interest rates. That's something we always stress is, finance when there's a need. We can advise historically based on the market if it's a good time to enter the market, but if there's a need, that would be a good time to finance. We know markets are going to move daily, but we do know that we're still at a very attractive market in terms of interest rate. With that interest and sinking fund tax rate, one component of the district's tax rate, the state maximum is 50 cents. Anytime a school district goes to sell bonds, it has to prove to the Texas Attorney General that it can pay for its existing bonds plus any new bonds with a 50-cent tax rate or less. And the district's current tax rate on its current bonds is at $4.74 cents. And so you can see there's quite a bit of capacity within that 50-cent limit that the district currently has. The district's current bonds were actually a refunding of prior bonds. So the district sold bonds to lower the interest rate, and that's what the current bonds are currently at. And I think if you were to look around the state, a 4-cent debt tax rate is very low in comparison to other districts in the region and throughout the state. And debt is really the only way Texas school districts can build capital or facilities, school buildings, and support it from that tax revenue. And so any school districts that had a building project or facility need more likely had to issue debt for that, and they're having to repay that debt with that INS tax rate.